item 11, and that's the corporate plan, and it's over to the councillor to the leader, sorry, to propose the vote. Thank you.
Chair, many thanks. I won't spend too much time on this because we covered a lot of detail already, which is linked to the corporate plan in terms of the priorities. Just to draw members' attention really to section 2.2 in terms of the corporate commitments, which are linked to the wellbeing objectives. So safeguarding people from harm, improving education and skills, transforming our economy and infrastructure, tackling poverty. I think the new one, which we've revised, is delivering on nature, recovery and climate change, and then transformation and future council developments. But Chair, again, I would direct people, members, to the attached report and move the recommendation, which is on the front page there, that the corporate plan 22-23
Do we have to have a seconder first before I call on you? I'm going to get a seconder before I call on you.
I can, no problem with that, as long as the leader answers a few questions. This is a draft policy, so I'm assuming that once we have, as it says in the report, a new permanent chief executive, we will be looking at this again. I think there's a couple of issues in here, though, that we need to think about, and I think one of the ones we need to think about is the fact that there is, on page 71, there is a piece about working collaboratively with others and involving all our citizens. We haven't had a great deal of luck with our consultation. One of the cyclopath criticisms we've had about the cyclopaths over the last couple of years is that is one of the problems with our collaboration, and I would like in the future that we look at this and see how we can improve our collaboration and also working with others, and also our consultation with the members of the public. The other issues, safeguarding, obviously, I think it should be paramount to everybody's agenda. Then improving education and skills, I think obviously everybody wants to see that, and I think there is an element in there, especially about the corporate parenting and looked after children. Maybe I think that higher profile for that, because we all know that the issues around that. If we then move on to the transforming of our economy and infrastructure, I think there's some issues there, and I totally agree with what the leader was saying about the Shared Prosperity Fund and how it hasn't aligned properly with what we had with the European funding and the way in which that's true, and how the poorer parts of Wales benefited substantially from it. So I would think that then, you know, that we need to campaign on that. I think there's I think to indicate the other thing about, there is an element of this that I think that we need to be united as a council and say to the UK government and the Welsh government, we know what's better for our community than someone in Westminster or even in Cardiff. And I think as a result of that, we should have more say in the Shared Prosperity Fund. The one thing that did strike me was, and I think it strike a lot of people who think, the long-term challenges and well-being objections. And I think if you look on page 83 of the report, I couldn't get over the fact that the household income gap, although gross disposable household income had risen in Swansea by 11% since 2011, it still lags behind by the rest of Wales by 3%, and the wage rate gap has increased since 2014. I think we seriously need to think about when this plan is actually brought forward and is a substantial document. We need those discussions, leader, and I hope that we can find some way of looking at this as a corporate plan that can, you know, even if it comes to scrutiny, and we scrutinise it together, because I think this is the basis of all the things that we've talked about in the past, in the shared objectives, the objectives you come forward with. I think it's important that the corporate plan reflects that, and there are some elements in it that need to be changed.
Okay, Chair, just to quickly respond on those points. In terms of collaboration and consultation specifically on things like the cycle routes, well, again, Councillor Holly will be aware that we have changed the process on that. It's now a two-stage process. We had the initial consultation on the proposed for the 15-year plan, and we're now into individual consultations on individual parts of the routes, and officers will be engaging on those routes that we've had funding for Welsh Government, including the feasibility work. So there should be ample opportunity for local communities to have more than one go at ensuring that the route that's delivered is one that they've been able to influence. In terms of corporate parent safeguarding, I again take the point on that, but again, just to reassure, that remains a consistent responsibility for everyone in Cabinet and for us all as members of the Council. Shared Prosperity Fund, he'll know I agree with his comments on that, and I made the comments about the funding formula that the UK Government are currently using, which I believe is directing the money away from where the need is. But just to say, in terms of the fund, we are the lead authority nominated now for our region. So we will be acting as the lead funding body for that fund, and therefore obviously working closely with both our regional partners, universities, third sector and others to make sure that the bids that go in are the ones that are our local priorities. On the household income, I do agree. I think it's a challenge for us, which is why delivery of the city deal and delivery of all of the economic parts of the commitments that we talked about are exactly aimed at raising the GVA of the region, but importantly, creating high quality, well paid jobs in our region so that people do not have to travel elsewhere to get a quality job. And that's about attracting investment and attracting jobs into Swansea and into South West Wales.
Councillor Gibbard.
Nothing to add, just wanted to formally second the report.
Thank you. If nobody else wishes to speak, I'm going to go to the vote. So over to you, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Evans, I've got a blind spot now, sorry.
I use a 10. I'm going to change the vote slightly. So only those councillors who are remote, only you vote electronically. The rest I will do via show of hands. So let me just launch the vote electronically first when my computer. I'll wait for that. Here it is. Okay, so for those for the recommendations, please raise your hands. Okay, those against and abstentions. Wait a sec. I'm closing the poll electronically.
Well, please do. I haven't voted again.
I'm sorry, I'll come to you now, Sue. Give me a second.
Okay, sorry.
And those who are unable to vote at all, so Councillor Sue Jones, how do you vote?
Your vote is not coming up on my computer.
Yeah, Councillor Sue Jones, how would you wish to vote?
I vote for.
For. So that's the majority for, with a couple of abstentions. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We now move on to item 12, and that's the Councillor's ICT allowance policy, May 2022 and beyond. And I call on Mr. Hugh Evans, Head of Democratic Services. Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you. I'll try and keep this brief. Council adopted the Council's ICT allowance policy back in January 2022. Since that time, a few minor issues have arisen, which I'm keen to address. The first one relates to the councillors. Mine goes completely blank. To the telephone element of the policy, which currently states that we only give a mobile phone allowance to the 12 qualifying councillors. Given that there are job share cabinet members now, it seems logical because they're doing the job constantly. It's not just occasionally. So the argument is that they should be paid. They should receive the full
money during their period as a cabinet member, be a job share or otherwise. And the second amendment relates to the data and telephone allowance, the data allowance effectively. It was formerly a broadband allowance, but council determined some years ago that it should become a data allowance, and we haven't modernised the point here. When it was a broadband, only one payment was made per house. Now that some people are choosing not to have broadband, to have data on their phone or whatever, it does follow to make sense that people who are living together in a shared household, married or what have you, can both claim, because there are different ways of claiming. So with those amendments, I have nothing to add. I'll take any questions should you have any.
Any questions?
No questions,
Councillor
Chair,
Stewart?
but happy
Yeah.
to move.
Happy to move. Any second? Thank you, Councillor Smith. Okay, again, we move to the vote. You're going to do the three votes together.
I'll do the vote in the same way. I'm launching the vote only for those remote to vote electronically. So we'll have a show of hands within the chamber. Those for, please raise your hands. Those against, raise your hands. And those abstaining, please raise your hands. And anybody that's unable to vote, if you can tell me now.
Who, me again, Sue?
That's okay.
For it, yeah, I don't know
You're
what,
for.
I'm not seeing
Thank-
the vote at all.
No, don't worry. We'll have a look at that in the coming days to help you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So that we just close the poll electronically, and that's unanimous for. Thank you very much.
Okay, we now move on to item 13, and that's the contribution towards costs and care and personal assistance, CPA for councillors and statutory co-opted members, and it's for information only. And again, I'm over to Hugh Evans, please. Thank you.
Just a very quick report from me. Just looking at my duty as head of Dem Services under the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales determinations. Swansea Council, all councils must encourage the take-up of contributions towards costs of care and personal assistance. Throughout Wales, that take-up is very poor. This report outlines what it is for and how you can claim it. It's pure information, but I urge you, if you've got any questions, please come and speak to me privately. But one assurance I want to give you all, any claim that is made will be reported collectively as a council and not as an individual, and that's a major change that's been done by the IRP because they feel that was a barrier for people claiming. This is all about diversity and democracy. It's all about helping people with caring responsibilities, helping people, be it parental or child, disabled, what have you. So please, if you've got any questions about this, please speak to me, I presume privately, because they're often personal matters. Nothing to add to the information report. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no vote on that. It was no. Okay, we move on to the next item then, which is item 14, and that's conferring the title of Honorary Alderman, Honorary Alderwoman. And again, I'm going to call on Hugh Evans, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Please note this is amended as outlined in the Presiding Member's announcements. The council policy is to confer the title of Honorary Alderman on Honorary Alderwoman on people that have been Lord Mayors in the past. The recommendation is to give that title to former councillors June Burtonshaw, Mark Child, Gareth Sullivan and Des Thomas. I have nothing, and there will in turn then be a ceremonial council just to make the award, but the decision is made this evening. I have nothing further to add to the report, but we'll take any questions.
Yes.
Chair, it gives me great pleasure to move that report and specifically, recognise the contribution made by Councillor Mark Child, Councillor June Burtonshaw and Councillor Des Thomas. Between them, I think have nearly 100 years of service to this authority, and I'm sure Councillor Holly will want to say some words for Councillor Sullivan.
Yes, yes, I endorse the fact that Councillor Gareth Sullivan, who has been a loyal servant for the Llangefallach ward, and I look forward to him receiving his honorary aldermanship.
Thank you, Councillor Holly. I'll now go to the vote again. So you're going to do electronic first.
Yeah. So I haven't cast a vote. Give me a second. Give me a second. So all those against, you can raise it. Right, sorry, I've got to raise it electronically. So those for, please raise your hands. Those against, raise your hands. Any abstentions? Councillor Sue Jones, were you able to vote?
No.
And how do you vote?
For it.
Okay, and let me just look at the others online, and that's unanimous for everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. The next item is item 15, and that's proposed. Oh, sorry.
No, carry on.
Martin needed to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You intend to leave? Okay, the next item is item 15, and it's a proposal for recruitment to chief executive. And I'm going to call, Councillor David Hopkins. Yeah, you speaking, leader?
Councillor, yeah.
Thank you.
Chair, nothing to add to the report other than to say, obviously, we currently have an interim chief executive, very, very keen that we move to appoint a permanent chief executive as soon as possible, because that will allow us then to also fill other interim posts with permanent appointments throughout the council structure. Thank you, Chair.
Can I formally second that we carry out this proposal as soon as possible?
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, same system. I've launched the vote electronically. So for those for the report, please raise your hands. Those against? Those abstaining? Councillor St Jones, how do you wish to vote?
For, please, who?
Don't worry at all. And let me just look at, and those online, that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
It's Martin.
I can't even get it off now. Oh, God, can't hear a thing now. Be quiet. Get down. Come on, get down. Get down. Get down. Oh, gosh.
That's been resolved.
Oh, God.
So I think that was a vote for.
Exactly. Okay, folks, settle down. We move on to item 16, and that's the proposals for recruitment to Director of Corporate Services. Again, I call on the leader. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Very, very briefly, we discussed earlier and we congratulated Adam Hill in terms of his appointment as Chief Executive in England. That obviously creates a gap in the structure. Working with the Chief Executive obviously has laid out some options which are captured in the recommendations there, namely that we move to appoint a new corporate director, that we delete the current Deputy Chief Executive's post, and that we also appoint an interim for the period at which we will have a gap. It's important that we do that because obviously, as we said in thanking Adam, he was clearly carrying out a number of roles which are really important for this authority, and we do not wish to carry that risk for any lengthy period of time. So having an interim available to support the Chief Executive and other directors is really important. So, Chair, I formally move the 4 recommendations captured on page 146.
Can I formally second?
Please. Okay, we move to the 4 recommendations. It's going to be the one vote, so or against Mr. Evans.
I've launched the electronic vote. For this vote internally, hang on. Sorry. Right, apologies for that.
No, yes, fine.
Yeah. For those for, please raise your hands. Okay, lower them. Those against? And any abstentions? Councillor Sue Jones.
For who?
Thank you. And let me just see how our online colleagues have voted. Okay, I have one abstention. The rest have voted for. Thank you very much.
On to item 17 then, and that's the amendments to the council's constitution. And again, it's the legal officer.
Thank you, Presiding Member. This is a for information report. It's reporting on further amendments needed to the terms of reference for the Governance and Audit Committee. These amendments are necessary because of the implementation of the Local Government Elections Wales Act. And you'll see it, paragraph 2.2, the change there that the legislation provides for 1/3 of the members of the committee are to be laypersons. And at paragraph 2.3, the chair has to be a layperson and the vice chair cannot be a member of the cabinet or assistant to cabinet. The changes have been made to the terms of reference set out in Appendix A. It's for information only because the monitoring officer has already made those changes, so it's just been reported to you.
On to item 18 then, please, and that's the membership of the committees. Leader, you taking it, yeah?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Only to remind members of the amendments that were made in your announcements at the beginning that I formally remove the report as amended.
Yes.
There is. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so
required.
the vote has been launched. Those in favour, please raise your hands. Okay, those against? Those abstaining? Councillor Sue Jones?
For.
And that's unanimous for. Thank you very much.
Okay, we now move on to councillors' questions, and it's 30 minutes. Yeah. Yes, 30 minutes. Okay, we move on to question 1, and that's going to be the response of the cabinet member for community.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just 2 quick follow-ups to this question. First of all, I note from the answer that there's still talk about resuming the neat teams between social services and cleansing. I'm just wondering if there's a timescale on when that's likely to happen. And secondly, in relation to the newly formed project teams, there's very little information about that available to councillors. Perhaps we could be circulated the terms of reference to these project teams and how we can ask them to undertake the work which needs to be done in our wards as part of that. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Black. Move on to question 2 then. Sorry.
Yeah, just to answer Peter Black's first question.
It's between me and Cyril, but it's already gone down as well. It's within the next 2 to 3 weeks, so that the neat team will be back up and running. I can answer that, but.
Councillor Anderson.
Was the second question? That will be done in due course, yes.
You move on to question 2 then. I don't think Councillor Fitzgerald is here. Councillor Holly, do you still have a supplementary?
I don't have a supplementary. I'm not sure if Councillor Linda James.
Councillor James, do you have a supplementary?
Linda had to leave at 7 o'clock.
Question 3 then, and it's Councillor Peter May.
Thank the Cabinet Member for the response on that one. As a technical question on our actual powering of our street lighting columns to facilitate this. I understand from previous experience when we were piloting a camera that street lighting columns only have a live feed during the hours of darkness. There's a central box that feeds sort of 50 to 100 columns all at once, and so it only makes them live from that switch box. In view of that, is that citywide? Approximately what percentage of street columns are fed by this arrangement compared to the ones that are fed directly? And if that is the case, would that preclude lamppost street column charging only at night time, and what would the council be doing to sort of overcome that obstacle? I will take a written answer on that because I appreciate it. It's a very technical question.
Councillor Stew, do you want to?
Thank you, Councillor May. In terms of the technical elements of how many, what, and what the charge is, etc., I'll get the answer on that for you. In terms of the general question, though, about how you would achieve this, just to advise, that is something that it's likely. I think the recent CDC has discussed looking at EV charging as a potential piece of work, and they'd be considering all of the aspects about how we can equitably deliver EV charging across the city. So that will probably be picked up as part of their deliberations.
Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Jeff Jones.
Yes, thanks. It's something that, shall we say, related to this, very interesting what Councillor Peter May has actually said about, on lampposts. I just want clarifications, really. I understand that all on-street facilities for electric charging have been shelved. It's only really going to go ahead in council car parks. Is that correct? And is this an option, really, that we could follow?
No, that's not correct. So within the policy commitments, there's a commitment to increase the amount of EV chargers. And as I said, its potential is up to the committee to actually decide. But I know that they've been considering EV charging as a piece of work, and part of that remit will be looking at how they achieve on-street car parking, car charging, in terms of making it equitable, because we know that it's more difficult to provide charging points on terrace streets and other areas. And again, that's part of the challenge about how we make EV charging something that everybody can make use of, regardless of where they live in the city.
Councillor Stewart Rice.
Just a quick follow-up question is, what is the remit and time frame for the consultants that are going to be appointed to look at this? And if somebody could provide me with a written response in terms of the costs of the consultancy as well.
Yes, if there's a cost, I will get that to you. But as I said, the policy considerations around this is something that we're hopeful the Corporate Delivery Committee will take on as a piece of work.
Yes, no. Okay, we move on to question 4 then. And any supplementary, Councillor Will Thomas? Thank you.
Thanks, Presiding Member. Just for councillors to be aware, when this question was submitted, Francesca O'Brien's name was on it. It should have been Angela, so she's out of the chamber because she has an interest. A lot of people in Mumbles will be very happy to hear that there's no plans to develop Bracelet Bay, but as these meetings are recorded, I'm going to take full advantage of that and just ask the leader, can he confirm that the council and cabinet have no plans to develop in any way Bracelet Bay, please?
Absolutely happy to give that assurance.
Okay, move on to question 5, and it's a response. Any supplementaries from Councillor Griffiths, Kelvin Griffiths?
Thank you, Presiding Member. With the new financial 5 years upon us, would the Cabinet member consider upgrading the 2G to a 3G pitch in Pointless before a final decision is made?
Councillor Griffiths, I think we are well advanced with the delivery of the 2G pitch, so it would probably be abortive at this point in time to change that. As you'll recall, when we had discussions with yourself, Councillor Downing, the Assembly member and the MP, we did discuss all options. I think whilst you have put some of your community budget into it, I think you were resistant to put any more money into that scheme. And again, in terms of delivering a different facility there, I think that might be difficult given that we're so far down the route of delivering this. But again, I think we have to go back to the discussion we had about why a 2G pitch is preferred in that area by the school and others rather than a 3G, and that's because it provides for a wider range of sports to be played on that surface and better meets the needs of the communities that the school has provided us with. But again, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and some communities will make different decisions, but what we believe we're doing is delivering what has been asked for.
Councillor Downing.
Yeah, thank you, President Member. Will a Cabinet Member agree with me about the main delay of this 2G? And I'll say it now, it is not a pitch, it's a play area. I play football, a football is a pitch. So a 3G barrier would only be the same things played in it. But on to the question was about the delay and everything, but would the leader agree that the main delay is due to the sustainable urban drainage known to all of us as SUDS? And around 80% of planning applications these days get followed by a SUDS. So although you get a planning application granted, which this had quite a while ago, then you've got to have SUDS before you can do anything at all. So SUDS at this moment in time has been granted. Now we go to tender. So all these delays add up. But and the school, as the leader rightly said, discussions took place with the head teacher. And with a 2G, everybody can play in it. With a 3G, you can only play football, rugby, and Gaelic football. And in our
Thank you, Councillor Downey.
Anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Downey, and can I thank you for the work that you've done to push this scheme forward. But you are absolutely right. These deliveries are not straightforward, and getting planning application is not the end of the process, because you then, as you quite rightly say, have to go into the SUDS work. That has to be procured. As members will be aware on all other schemes that they may be involved in, there are shortages of labour and resources, and even though the money and the funding is there, it is still a challenge in delivery. But as you quite rightly say, it is delivering what is preferred for that area, and we are making good progress in terms of getting that SUDS element done, and hopefully we will see that full 2GG pitch delivered shortly.
Question 6. Councillor Will Thomas. Yeah.
Thanks, Presiding Member. Yeah, we're very excited down Mumbles with the seawall. So that does, potentially, if done well and done right, it's a really exciting project for Mumbles, which is obviously a tourist destination which can drive and improve business in the area. However, one of the things a lot of local businesses are worried about the build period and the loss of parking over that time. So I'd just like to ask the leader if he could do his utmost to support those local businesses and parking during the time of the build, maybe looking into park and ride, or maybe ideally a multi-storey car park in the quarry if you've got a couple of quid down the back of the sofa. So one of the other things as a local member we get asked about a lot is the future of the tennis courts down in Mumbles, and a lot of the time I feel we haven't had an honest answer. Let's see what happens after the build. It's going to be a depot. So really my question is, when can we know what Cabinet's plans are for that site? Is there going to be a consultation done by Swansea Council specifically on that site? And yeah, what's the future of that really, please? Thank you.
So again, in Councillor Stephen's absence, and I haven't done a Boris. They're all still cabinet members. They haven't resigned. They're just unwell or at other functions this evening. But yes, I can give that assurance in that we have worked with officers and contractors to make sure that the delivery of this fantastic upgrade to our seawall and to the full promenade across Mumbles is done in a phased and managed way to limit the impact on businesses and the community. So the plan is there to be seen. Obviously, part of that will mean that we will manage parking and other services as we work our way up the promenade doing the work. In terms of your second point around the tennis courts, there should be no confusion on this. I think we've had this conversation a number of times. We will not impose a solution on Mumbles. We will work with Mumbles Community Council, with the community, to look at what options best suit the community, and they remain, as far as I can see, around reinstatement of the tennis courts, or putting a different sports facility there, or putting parking there, or putting some other use there. Everything remains on the table, but it needs to be what the community want to see there, and that will be done through a consultation.
Thank you. We move on to question 7 then, and Councillor Lyndon Jones, any supplementaries?
Yeah, just to ask, what I am finding actually is getting tales from people who are burning wood, and that is more of an issue now. When you say that, obviously before wood could be dropped off at Clyne, Gorsynan and Llansamlet, now it's obviously only Llansamlet, and you are finding issues of wood being burned. I've had to get in touch with the department here, who I have to say are excellent in dealing with that. But nevertheless, that is an issue. I think in the answer about the full skips, I think, if that was better planned, then they wouldn't fill up. You could get them replaced more quickly. And one of the issues we had was, one of the suggestions I made initially to the former cabinet member, Councillor Mark Thomas, that maybe you get a skip in Clyne and in Gorsynan, and then you move it to Llansamlet, so you get one vehicle movement, and not everybody from the Gower Peninsula down to Mumbles, or driving to Llansamlet. So if we are to reduce greenhouse gases, we're not going about it possibly in the right way. So, thanks.
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, until NRW concludes their review, Councillor Jones, Linden, I will get a written explanation into your question.
Okay, question 8, Councillor Peter Black, do you have supplementary, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. From what we know, what I've read about this proposed aquarium, it's going to be modelled on Brisbane's virtual aquarium, QU2 the Cube, which is largely a research facility with some public access. So clearly the involvement of one or both of the universities is going to be absolutely crucial if this is going to go ahead. But what I'm interested in is whether this aquarium is going to be including endangered mammals such as whales, dolphins and porpoises, because I think that would be of some concern to quite a lot of people.
Councillor Black, no, I can give you a reassurance on that, on both fronts. So yes, we are in discussions with the university, and they are involved in terms of planning for the aquarium. The previous plans for the aquarium, which you may recall from some years ago, were obviously based on the university accessing some of the funds which are now denied to us because we've exited the European Union and haven't been replaced. And of course, Swansea University remains a UK leader in marine biology research, so they are a very strong partner to have alongside us. In terms of the actual makeup of the aquarium, I think that all options are on the table. We're certainly interested in the Cube, which is in Queensland, and the ability to have large digital screens which are interactive, because that allows us to provide changes to the displays on a quite a useful basis, and for children to interact with the exhibits in a way that they can't with live exhibits. But certainly there are likely to be some live exhibits in the aquarium, but they will not be of the species and the scale of, that you're talking about. That would be completely wrong.
Councillor David Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm grateful for the assurance, Leader, about endangered mammals not being included, but I wonder whether an exception could be made for conservatives in Wales who are clearing an endangered species.
I don't think many people would pay to see that.
Okay, move on to question 9. Again, Councillor Peter Black, any supplementaries, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've had constituents of mine in sheltered housing raise this issue with me. A lot of them actually have electric carts or wheelchairs which they need to recharge, and it just seems to me that the council should be making some provision for them. It isn't just about electric cars, so I'm wondering whether we could look at that and see whether that could be included in the rollout.
Yeah, that's currently being considered as part of the policy review, so yes, Councillor Black.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Black. That's the end of Councillors' questions. It's also the end of the agenda. So thank you very much. Sorry to have kept you so long, but have a safe journey home, everybody, and good night. Thank you. All right.